Thank you, Senator. Awards are so embarrassing. They remind you of all the things that you need to keep on working on because there's so much more that can be done, or at least that's how it works out for me. I'm deeply humbled to be honored here. I attended in 2010, had a wonderful time with my dear friend, Senator Mary Landrieu. I think you can tell as each person comes up here, if their lives have crossed Mary's, then you know that if you're up here, it's because you're one of those people that just doesn't tell her no, which, having known her mother, it's just another family trait of why you just don't. Mary had invited me to an equestrian event a few years ago, and her mother was there, and she just sort of slapped me on the face, which only moms can do, and said, "You're a doer like Mary." And so I thought, okay, of course, I'm in that group, and I'll be tirelessly doing this for the rest of my life. So the thing that I admire so much about CCAI is the family relationships. As far as the quote, you don't have to be born to someone for them to be a part of your family. To me, it's a tribe. It's the group of all the people that you surround yourself with. And adoption has been very personal to me. It has touched my family, my friends, and also my work colleagues. So the stories that I was going to share are very personal. And my mom is here to say thank you, and she's not supposed to look at me because she's crying. So I'm really better at this, but I have my kryptonite down there because she doesn't always get to come to events with me. But it's been a real pleasure to have her here. The parents of my friend Leah have 3 healthy and gregarious little boys, but their mother really wanted a little girl. And so she got a curly red-haired little Spitfire. A generation later, when a young woman in their hometown was struggling, Leah and her husband adopted adorable twin boys. At work, our top ticket salesman is from an adopted situation. And then later, our in-house legal attorney, Vicky, was considering China when she wanted to start her family and adopt a little girl. When she first started embarking upon this process, having experienced the things that we'd done through the team, she reached out to Senator Mary Landrieu's office, and she helped make those initial international connections. A few years later, after they had adopted Mary Rose, they wanted to make sure that Mary Rose had a little sister. And so they went again to China in terms of making that adoption process happen. At the time, they identified Jill Marie as another toddler, but through the complications that were happening because of the Beijing Olympics, China put a freeze and a lockdown on a lot of communications and programs, including their adoption process. At a critical time, our entire office was engrossed in this process, so much so that my grandfather, being a Republican that he is, reached out to some friends, and President Bush wrote a letter, and that was another part of the process, along with Senator Mary Landrieu, and letters and whatever we could do to continue the process. It was another eye-opening experience, just in learning this story of how gut-wrenching it can be to have identified your child, to connect and know that you want this little girl, Jill Marie, to come and live with you, and yet know that she's that far away and you can't get her home. Everything, good wishes, and all this support prevailed. You know, when I think back on that, there are so many people who never have met Jill Marie. I get to see her at football games and participate with our Junior Sensations program, but of all these people who help, you don't always get to connect with those faces. And that's another thing that's inspired me by CCAI, is how many collaborative agencies are here. Of all the people that I've participated with, and as I learn, it's these intimate stories that we share. And just in some of the random conversations that we have, how we connect people that can help, either be it international or on the local home front. With our Saints games, one of our first presentations was actually for our general manager who'd adopted 2 little girls from Mexico. And then, as mentioned before, there's a football player that y'all previously honored. Well, he used to be a Saint. So I'm wearing a Super Bowl ring right now because Scott Vegeta's Japanese parents adopted a little blonde boy that kept growing and growing and growing, and then became an NFL linebacker. And he was a part of our 2009 season, and of course our 2010 victory at the Super Bowl. He participated with those PSAs that the Congressman mentioned, and also continued that tradition with our Saints November Awareness Month. We have Jimmy Graham, who's igniting our football field and fantasy football leagues across America as one of the most famous tight ends right now. Jimmy was caught in a terrible foster care situation. He'd been bounced around, and he had been abused in a foster care facility that he'd been housed in. Through a very positive program that he was with, one of the volunteers, much like Luann and Sean Toohey, just couldn't see this bright young man and not take him home. She never formally adopted him, but she became his family. He went on to accept a scholarship to the University of Miami. He played basketball. He was a brilliant young child. And then the president, she decided that he really should be playing football, to which this wisdom I'm deeply appreciative that he listened to. So not all stories end up with adoption and a famous football player, but there's a surprisingly abundance of them in the room, or connections and stories to that. On our ticket stock, which goes to over 70,000 people every game, and because most of our tickets are to season ticket holders, we're able to recognize charities. We started with one season, and the next season, instead of the charity theme, my staff thought that they could put football players alone on the tickets. I said absolutely not. And to really put the fear of anything in them, I told them I'd promise the senator. And of course, all the charities had to stay, but November month is always adoption, and we always pick a great game, and Mary comes down, and we honor families, and we celebrate these stories. I'm so deeply honored to be mentioned and acknowledged for this. What I do is just use our platform to showcase important works. But it's so deeply personal to receive an award that was named for a friend of this organization, and one of his friends introduced himself to me tonight. So I get excited about football like a lot of you. I was so impressed because Hugh Jackman actually knew we were 5-0, which is pretty exciting. And Willie Robertson hasn't missed a home game yet. He's always on our sidelines. So I hope all of you enjoy your evening tonight, continue to cheer for our team, and know that as the Saints play, we will be supporting adoption and encouraging our other owners to support this effort as well. Thank you so much.